Alright, musings from the car time. Musings from the car time. Musings from the car time. Do, 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 do. Alright. There's me bloody face. Alright, so I'm having a general thought here, and I've got not as much time as normal, so I've got to be fairly quick about it. I'm kind of going over in my own head kind of my Dogman story, because I'm going to be on Vic's live stream tonight at 8, and generally speaking, the story is fairly brief, and I know that I'm gonna have to kind of like lay out my arguments in regards to the fact that I come from the view of my personal sighting as more werewolf in nature versus whatever the heck dogmen are, and that's kind of the thing, is like I don't think that it's just one thing. I really don't. I feel like, there's werewolves, there are government created chimera, there are cynocephaly, and who knows what those really are. And then I think there's also the remnants of chimera, after the flood, that were created once again. But I was kind of like just meandering down the path of the whole government created dogman type thing, because we get stories, don't we, a lot about people having like run-ins with these, and sometimes government is keeping tabs on them or tracking them, for lack of a better term, and then sometimes somebody manages to take one out, and all of a sudden they get in trouble with the government because they destroyed an asset. And it makes me just kind of wonder, like, what's going on there? Because I can't remember whose show it was on or the guest that was talking about it. It's been a long minute, but I can't remember if they were a whistleblower, but I feel like part of their argument was, they were like, even when I was a kid, there was a show that came on talking about human hybridization with animals to make chimeras, and don't know how it ever made it on the airways of whatever it was back in, I want to say the 60s, maybe 70s. So whatever nature science-y stuff would have come on at that time. You older folks out there, maybe y'all would know. I don't know where those things came on. In my day and age, when I was a kid, it was Discovery, right? And that, split off and became a bazillion different things too. So I don't know, but anyways, I remember him talking and like going over like, that episode that he was able to find it, and jot down that information that they were telling, and used it as part of his argument and his story. And I found that interesting, and if memory serves, like they were talking on that show that human and domestic dog hybridization was the easiest of all of it, and that they had the most results from it. And that's interesting, right? Very interesting. If I'm not mistaken, even in the book of Enoch, at least I think it was Enoch, it could be giants, but I'm just gonna say Enoch for lack of a coherency? Whatever. Going off the top of my head here. I don't have the information here in front of me. You guys can't even see me. At least I can't see me. Oh, I see my glasses a bit. Anyways, translation, I've read multiple translations, and it talks about all flesh being corrupted. Meaning, like, all animal life and all that. But I also feel like it also, maybe it's just one of the translations, I could be wrong, but they talk, when referring to chimeras, they also talk about mixing animal with human. Now, they don't specifically say themselves in that particular translation. It might in others, or it might somewhere down the road, and I'm just getting all my facts mixed up. I remember that being a thing too. And, I feel like that's where the whole cynocephaly come in with everything, personally. But the point is that they're mixing genetics and making monsters. And if that is the case, then old dude's story that I'm referencing, makes sense. There's a background for it, And I look at, like, say, in the Sumerian mythology, like the creation of Enkidu, and they essentially do the same thing, but they also add their own genetics into it too, so that Enkidu could basically be able to keep in check Gilgamesh, who is 2/3 divine, not just half, 2/3. So Bigfoot equals really strong. I get it. That's such an interesting thing, And if we work off of the premise of the government has a contract or a treaty, with these things, the Eisenhower Treaty? Yeah, there we go. Eisenhower Treaty. So, if we work off of that, these things are being created again. And Lord knows that if a sample of what they made is able to be gotten by our government, they're going to do it and they're going to play around with it. Yes, just think about UFOs, like we'll go and recover that and glean all we can before we're probably forced to give it back. I don't know how all that works, but I do know that if it does work that way, the government is going to be like, I'm going to take this DNA sample, thank you very much. I mean, think about the giant of Kandahar, right? That seems exactly like what went down there. Speaking of that, the guy that came on Merkel's show, whose grandmother was sacrificed to the giant of Kandahar from Afghanistan and all that, he's going to be coming on. Ryan, he's a good dude, love Ryan. So I might be having him on real soon. And so anyway, so if we create that, what is that? Like, my general question is, does it have a soul? You know what I mean? And just my thoughts and theories on it, from what I understand about the evidence that's available and the things that I've heard, I don't think that it does. I think that they are an empty vessel. Now, could you control such a thing with AI? with a chip in its brain or whatever? I think you could. I think it would lend itself to a more, convoluted and deep question of what is AI in the end. But, let's remove that. I think that you have an empty vessel, not unlike what people talk about with aliens, in grays and stuff like that, and what I've even been told by said aliens about grays and stuff, I think you are creating a 3D printed meat suit, a clone. Tomato, tomato, same thing. And I think that if you create an empty vessel, the disembodied spirits of the Nephilim and their chimeras and all that stuff, we know because that they are of a hybrid nature, not belonging to either Earth, being created within the Earth, therefore they are bound to the Earth. They're not like us. Therefore, when they die, their disembodied spirits are here. They are captive here on this plane, within the spirit realm of the Earth. That is what a demon is. It's not a fallen angel. It is the disembodied spirit of the Nephilim. And if you want to get technical, the fallen angel and all that, I would classify that more as devil, not the devil, but a devil. So this thing gets created in a lab. A demon that is constantly always wanting a body. Be like, hey, there's a body. I'm gonna use that. And then at what point in time, or how much, or whatever, how much control would the government have over such a created being, whether they made it or not? It's kind of like, alright, think about sigil magic, right? They have to tell you what they're doing or whatever, so that they don't receive some kind of karmic debt, or however the heck that crap works. I don't, whatever. Anyways, think about the movie, what was it? Godzilla versus Kong. There's lots of stuff that comes out with Godzilla and Kong anyways. It's super neat. Big Godzilla fan anyways. But, so on that movie, they build Mecha Godzilla, right? And the way it works is they have the salvaged skull of Ghidorah, and it's got all the energy and all the soul, if you will, still in it and able to be accessed. But to interface with it, they put a person in the control seat, and the person is controlling the Mechagodzilla remotely. But eventually, it gets overridden by the soul of Ghidorah and goes rogue, right? And it starts doing its own thing. I'm willing to bet that if a government-created chimera is made, I feel it's a lot like that situation. And I think, like I said, putting that into the script of the movie is then letting you know, hey, this is what happens, this is what we do. It's in your face. If you don't pick up on it, that's on you. We just told you. I don't know. Maybe. So, I don't know. I mean, it's just kind of, like a general musing. Government-created Dogman. That's where my head's at, kind of with it. And granted, I understand that. I have no idea how that actually gets done. There's Did a bird just take a pee on my window? How did I just get a random big giant glob of water? Wait, birds have cloacas. They can't pee. There's nobody in front of me. Weird. Okay, anyways. I'm sure I'm leaving plenty on the chopping block. And there's so much nuance it's not even funny. But how close am I to having the general gist of it, right? I don't know. We are given the most basic of math. Of 1 + 1 is equal to 2. And that is the thought process that I'm going on. Now, are there nuance within it? Is there geometry and trigonometry in it that I'm not picking up on entirely? Oh yeah, I'm sure. The curvature of the one that we create lets us know that at this angle, from this direction at this velocity, to be able to make the one go down in a straight line after you do a swoop, because we're making a proper one, and then we do the bottom to make a fancy looking one versus just a dash. That implies that, I don't know. But it's an interesting thought, and that's the way my brain works, is that, okay, here's the problem, okay, here are the possible solutions, okay, how does, if we want to go off, alright, so the solutions, are let's think of geometry? No, algebra, are the letter variable. So x equals such and such plus such and such, right? So we say, alright, so we're going to plug in the variable in the x of government-created Dogman. Okay. How do we get x? This is what very little knowledge we have. They're little breadcrumbs. So then how do we fill in the rest to get x? That's how my brain thinks about it. Is it correct? I don't know. Worst case scenario, it makes for great science fiction, right? Could it be? Could be. Could it not be? Could be. I don't know. And that's just the subject of government-created / clone from America. Or whatever world government. So, don't know. But I think that's all we got, because I'm fixing to pull in and I'm fixing to have to clock in. Oof. Shouldn't have filled the gas tank up. Should have just got $20. Alright. Love you guys. Tuki. Peace.